ahead on 12 News, a back-to-school assignment where it felt just as good to give as it did to receive. Then, digging into Golden Valley history, we scoop up 3 things you may not know about the city. But first, something that's keeping neighbors on edge, the hot-button issue facing a longtime Golden Valley restaurant. 12 News starts right now. Should Schuler's Tavern in Golden Valley be allowed to be an outdoor patio?
The question actually isn't so simple. The Golden Valley City Council spent 2 hours Wednesday night discussing the issue, and to allow the patio, the City Council would have to approve a zoning change, and that has neighbors concerned. Renee Bonneau joins us now with more on what the council decided and what that means for Schuler's. Renee?
Alex and Mike, at least for now, an outdoor patio at Schuler's is a no-go. The council did not approve a change to the city's comprehensive plan, which would have allowed Schuler's to expand. But the council didn't vote against the move either.
We just sort of come up with a basic plan with a lot of trees and shrubbery to help screen noise.
Steve Sands is friends with Ray Jacob, the owner of Schuler's Tavern. He says Jacob's dream is to add an outdoor patio.
We went around and got about 380 signatures, some of them the local people around here, some of them the patrons. And probably the overwhelming statement I heard from everybody is, well, it's about time they had something out there.
Those against an outdoor patio at Schuler's say it'd be a nightmare.
This neighborhood has been hard hit with group homes. It's, as it has just been expressed, it has empty houses. It's a neighborhood that's trying to stay a neighborhood. And I don't think we'd be doing any service to this neighborhood for now or for the future by rezoning it.
Wednesday, the Golden Valley City Council discussed whether to amend the city's comprehensive plan to change the area where Schuler's sits from a residential district to a commercial one. That area became residential after the restaurant was built in 1929, but it would need to be rezoned to allow for Schuler's to expand. While the City Council decided to take no action on the issue has sparked discussion on the possibility of creating a new so-called light commercial zoning district.
I think that asking the Planning Commission and directing the Planning Commission to take a look at a more fine-grained commercial zoning designation is a fine thing to do. But in terms of this particular project, I'm fine with letting it stop here tonight.
No action means pausing Schuler's patio plans, but Steve Sands says the owner is exploring other ways to make it happen.
We're still hopeful. We're going to keep trying. We're not giving up.
A couple different alternatives were mentioned in the council meeting. Sands says the owner is trying to see if the city would grant him some sort of special use permit. Someone else mentioned the possibility of creating walls or doors that would open in the spring and summertime. Mike and Alex, the restaurant is free to renovate its current building. It just can't expand on its footprint.
More to come.
Possibly.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, thank you.
Thanks, Renee.
A reward is being offered to find a murder suspect with ties to Robbinsdale. 23-year-old Giovanni Dotz is wanted for a murder in North Minneapolis. Police say Dotz shot and killed a woman last month. Dotz is 5 feet 10 inches tall with a medium build. Authorities say Dotz has lived recently in Robbinsdale. Crime Stoppers is offering a reward of up to $1,000 for information leading to his arrest.
Brooklyn Center Police have arrested 2 men they believe are responsible for recent copper thefts. 2 of the thefts occurred at this partially vacant industrial building. According to court documents, electrical wiring, copper plumbing, and other materials were stolen. Damage estimates to the building are in the tens of thousands of dollars. Charged in the recent burglaries are Dale Presley of Minneapolis and Cody Spaeth Lindquist of Andover. Pending further investigation, both suspects could also be charged with additional crimes.
A large crowd turned out in Plymouth this afternoon to remember an 8-year-old girl who died of an unexplained illness. Amara Weidinger was in and out of hospitals for 6 months. She died in late July. The service in her memory was a colorful celebration of her short life. But family friends say she was a medical mystery to some of the best doctors in the country.
They've been to Children's, they've been to Mayo. There's been medical doctors in Europe that have looked at her situation, and no one can figure it out. And these guys are so smart. They have done so much work on behalf of this family. So many doctors from Children's and Mayo just came around this family and tried to figure it out.
Family members hope doctors can eventually determine the cause of Amara's illness so other families don't have to go through the same ordeal. Getting kids ready to head back to school is top of mind for many parents right now.
It is not a cheap time of year. It's estimated that families will spend $688 on average getting kids ready to head back to school. When money is tight, that's a real strain, and that's why one organization steps in to help.
We're getting close for school, and I'm really happy.
The smile on 10-year-old Brian Humphrey's face is more than just anticipation for the school year.
I have my uniform jeans, I have my socks.
It's also an expression of relief.
My mom won't have to pay for that much. Her use all her money.
Armed in blue,
You have $6 left. You can either get a belt or you can get a shirt.
volunteers for the Salvation Army are paired up with 550 kids in need of a few essentials.
It was fun. He knew what he wanted.
And he's concerned about getting what's on his list, not asking for a lot of stuff that he doesn't need. So he's a good kid. Does that fit?
Yeah.
Is it too big?
No, it's just right.
Just right? Okay.
The kids each get $80 to spend, and calculating the costs and sizing up the deals as a team is part of the fun.
And it's so great. I love the Salvation Army.
I had $80 to spend.
And what did you come out with?
Well, 15 cents left over.
If we can relieve some of the money that they spend on school clothing going back to school for their children, then they can also spend that perhaps on food or utilities or other necessities that they need.
Got some socks. Got a pair of khakis, a school uniform.
The necessities that filled these carts help students like Brian Humphrey feel good about back to school.
I love it. I think I'm going to wear it for picture day.
It's money and time well spent.
You know, help them out and get them excited about the school year and looking good and all that is always a good thing.
The Salvation Army's Back to School event raised $44,000 in donations this year to help 550 area kids. Well, still ahead, 3 things that you might not know about Golden Valley.
That includes a family business that has helped improve lives since the 1800s. Then later in sports, we meet 2 local hockey players who are skating for a spot with the U.S. National Junior Women's Team.
But first, it's a look at your AccuWeather forecast.
Many people think of Golden Valley as the home to General Mills, Honeywell, and Theodore Wirth Park.
And those are the big ones, but there are a few other things about Golden Valley that might surprise you. Here's Delane Cleveland with 3 things.
We start off on Golden Valley Road at the headquarters of the Golden Valley Historical Society. This little white church, which is also the city's first church, has a rich history that dates back to the late 1800s.
The original building was built in 1882, and it was just this one room.
The early settlers had to move the non-denominational church to this spot 18 years later when the landowner decided he wanted to mine gravel at its original location.
And then they moved this one-room church, pulling it by horses and mules, rolling it on logs, and setting it on this foundation.
And it's stayed here ever since. In 1996, the Historical Society voted to buy it for $84,000.
And so a little lady sitting in the back of the room raised her hand and said, "Yoo-hoo, would it be all right if one person donates the money to buy the church?" And the members looked at each other and said, "Yes!"
Today it houses Golden Valley memorabilia, including hundreds of old street signs, and plays host to dozens of small weddings. Less than a mile away on Douglas Drive sits Weekly Orthotics and Prosthetics, which also dates back to the late 1800s. They're one of the largest and locally owned manufacturers and providers of these products in the area.
It functions a lot like a pharmacist would, where a doctor will write a prescription for a specific device for a specific condition that a patient has and is being treated for.
Weekly builds artificial limbs custom fit for their patients right in their on-site laboratory.
What we try to do is restore as much of the comfort and mobility and independence, really, that patient should have.
The company is now in its 4th generation of family ownership, and it continues to thrive.
The reason is that I think we stick to basics as far as taking care of people.
One of the things Golden Valley prides itself on is its park system. The very first Golden Valley Park Board was established way back in 1948 with Lillian Seaman serving as the first park board president.
At that time, it was a 3-person board that was a legal board. They had the power to tax at that time, and they started out with a $500 budget.
With that money, they were able to acquire land for 2 parks, one of which eventually became Lillian Seaman Park. But the Golden Valley Park Board wasn't done there.
If we can jump ahead then to 1967, the city then held a bond issue for $1.6 million, and that was for the acquisition and development of Brookview Golf Course and Brookview Park.
Today, Brookview Golf Course and Park is a popular destination for people wanting to enjoy some time outdoors. In fact, Golden Valley has more than 1,000 acres dedicated to parks and open space.
The city also has Theodore Wirth Park, which is located predominantly in Golden Valley.
Jacobson says 520 acres of Theodore Wirth Park is located within Golden Valley's borders, although it's operated by the Minneapolis Park Board. But it's just another thing that makes Golden Valley a popular recreation destination.
Doing active sports or cultural activities, classes, this type of thing is good for your health, good for your mind, and good for the general well-being of the community.
In Golden Valley, Delane Cleveland, 12 News.
And here are a couple of bonus tidbits about Golden Valley. The city used to have its own school district until the 1980s. That's when the school district ended and Breck, the private school, bought the high school and moved there from Minneapolis. Coming up, what drew oohs and ahs on a Plymouth lake.
But first in sports, highlights from Robbinsdale's game in the regional semifinals of Little League Baseball. John Jacobson is in next. Well, it's a good run for the Robbinsdale Little Leaguers who make it all the way to the semifinal game in this tournament.
And down to the 4 teams in the regional and going for a spot on that championship game come Saturday. With a 3-1 record in pool play, the Robbinsdale Little League All-Stars earned a spot in the semifinals of the Midwest Division Regional Tournament in Indianapolis. It was a rematch of a game earlier this week against the only team Robbinsdale lost to in pool play, Canyon Lake Little League of Rapid City, South Dakota. Top of the first, and Canyon Lake's Connor King grounds out to first base. Cooper Bowman scores the first run of the game to get South Dakota up early. In the 3rd inning, with a runner on, King delivers the big blow. He slugs a 2-run homer to right, and King puts Canyon Lake up 3-0. It was a big 3rd inning. A few batters later, Brian Peterite singles to left. Noah Johnson scores. Robbinsdale gets Jack Sorensen out of 3rd base, but Canyon Lake scores 4 runs in the inning to lead it 5-0. Bottom of the 4th, and Robbinsdale finally scores. A wild pitch on ball 4 to Donovan Hall scores Christian Dixon to make it 5-1. Well, that's as close as they'd get. King pitches a complete game for Canyon Lake, striking out 9, including Christian Costello, to end the game. Canyon Lake beats Robbinsdale 6-1, ending their playoff run. Canyon Lake plays for the regional title and a trip to Williamsport, Pennsylvania on Saturday. The Champlin Park VFW baseball team is in the state tournament. The 16-year-olds faced Alexandria in the first round earlier today and won 6-5. They play again Friday afternoon at Mankato East High School. A very talented group of women's hockey players is in the Twin Cities this week in a USA hockey program. As Jay Wilcox reports, 2 high school players from the northwest suburbs are right in the middle of it all.
Though it's Summer Olympic time, wearing a USA jersey is a thrill for these winter sport athletes too. Brooklyn Park's Kate Schipper, who plays high school hockey at Breck, and Danny Cameronese of Plymouth and Blake are vying for spots on the USA Under-18 women's team at this week's National Festival.
It's a lot faster pace. One of the days we play the older girls in one game, but right now we're just scrimmaging each other, and the coaches are trying to find lines and a team to play against Canada.
First week, we just do kind of a series of practices and scrimmaging against each other. And then later, they'll narrow it down for a team to play in a 3-game series against Canada.
Danny and Kate have been through this before, and that definitely helps.
It helps actually a lot. Even though I change the coaches, you still kind of know what to expect coming into it. And then you can help like the younger girls with like what to think, like what's going to happen, how it's going to be.
I'm not as nervous this year as I was last year because coming in, I kind of know what to expect and all the expectations that are put on us. But I've been trying to like help the younger girls get used to it and like get their nerves out.
They're part of a large group from Minnesota, and Shipper and Cameronese hope to be chosen to represent their country against arch rival Canada next week in Blaine. Jay Wilcox, 12 Sports.
The U.S. under-18 team chosen from the festival hosts Canada in a 3-game series next Thursday through Saturday. Meanwhile, 21 of the 23 members of the USA women's national team that took the silver medal in the 2012 World Championships are in Blaine this week for the festival. Time again to reel in another Channel 12 fishing tip. Here's pro angler Terry Tuma with this week's tip.
There is an untapped resource regarding bluegill fisheries, and that means that when you have a windy day on a body of water, it blows zooplankton out from the shallows into that main core of that lake. And what happens then, these big bluegills come out and feed, and they really get into that high feed mode. And generally speaking, these fish are going to be in the 1/3 top layer of that water column. Bobber systems and waxworms are ideal for that, casting to these fish. And you may need to anchor or use your electric trolling rod. Now, after they get done feeding, however, you still can catch these fish. They're going to drop down to about 3 feet off the bottom, suspended. Leeches and a small, tiny jig is going to be very productive. But this is an inside tip, if you will, for catching monster bluegills throughout the summer. Be sure to tune in next week for another tip right here on Channel 12 and release some of those fish.
Thanks, Terry. That's it for sports today.
All right, thanks, John. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
In Golden Valley, there's a project that grew out of a family tragedy.
My cousin passed away, and so I wanted to honor her, and so I wanted to help kids, young kids.
Friday on 12 News, see how a 13-year-old girl is putting her heart, sweat, and money into a gardening project with other kids in mind. Well, finally, something you don't want to try at home unless you've had months and months of practice.
Spectators at Parker's Lake Park in Plymouth witnessed quite the balancing act on the water. This was the last performance of the season by the Shockwaves water ski team based in Prior Lake. They have 180 members of all different ages and abilities, and it is one of the largest water ski clubs in the upper Midwest. It reminds me of as a kid, we used to watch shows like that.
How do they do that?
That's great. Yeah. A lot of entertainment there. That does it for us. Thanks so much for joining us.
And we leave you with more sights and sounds on a beautiful night on Parker's Lake. Enjoy.